Once Upon a Time Inch. Hollywood Quentin, superhero movies aside, Once Upon a Time Inch. Hollywood is it is Quentin Tarantino's first since 2015 and will weave together the stories of two fictional leads with one of Hollywood's most gruesome and most talked about real-life tales, the Charles Manson murders. After nearly 4 years in the works, Once Upon a Time received its premiere at Cannes Film Festival last week, where it was met with a 6-minute standing ovation. Yet at a press conference the next day, things soon turned slightly sour. These ups and downs on the French coast are just the latest in a line of controversies that have already threatened to cast a shadow over the release. So how does the movie remain one of the most talked about releases of 2019? In July 2017, The Hollywood Reporter broke the news that Tarantinos was officially making headway on his 9th film. Their report on the first day, 4 followers Tex Watson, Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Linda Kasabian drove to a luxury home on Cielo Drive, Los Angeles, which was being rented by Roman Polanski and his wife Sharon Tate, who was 8.5 months pregnant. Polanski was in Europe for work commitments, but Sharon was there. 3 of the family, they did not know at the time, one of their victims was incredibly high profile, and had no idea that the murders would become one of the most horrifying pieces of Hollywood history. The following day, 5 members of the Manson family traveled to another area of Los Angeles and mounted a separate attack, which saw them claim the lives of Leno LaBianca and his wife, Rosemary. The murders hit Hollywood hard for a number of reasons. First, when Manson's involvement with his helter-skelter theory, cult, and famous connections became known, the incidents were cemented as one of the most shocking and brutal events in the town's history. If you want a deeper, naturally, plenty of filmmakers and showrunners have attempted to immortalize them on screen with varied results, the first film coming just a year after the murders took place. Since then, there's been countless projects and mentions. From a film star, when The Hollywood Reporter confirmed that Tarantino's then untitled film would as rumors had suggested tell the story of the Manson murders, their sources also stated that Bob and Harvey Weinstein would be involved in some way, as they had every single one of Tarantino's movies up to that point. When Harvey Weinstein was accused of sexual misconduct and rape, he denied all allegations of the latter. Tarantino announced that he would no longer be working with his longtime collaborator, taking his project to auction instead. Even though the film had no leads at this point, as well as a vague yet controversial plot, all of the big Hollywood studios were keen to get a slice of the Tarantino action. After a bidding war, Sony was triumphant, but the movie came with not just a high asking price, a budget of $95 million, but numerous caveats. Tarantino's decision to make a film featuring the murders was already raising eyebrows, so his decision to release it on the 50th anniversary of Tate's killing did not go down well. In March 2018, the late star's sister, Deborah, publicly slammed Tarantino, telling people these people are taking horrific situations and making them even more graphic than they were without any concern for the living victims of these crimes, and I think that's horrible and crass. The release date in particular left a sour taste for the family, and just a few months after Deborah's comments, Sony announced a change to when the film would debut. But shifting the date 2 weeks earlier, neither Sony nor Tarantino gave an official reason for the change and focused on pushing ahead with filming and editing the movie. After signing his deal with Sony, when no actors were officially signed up, Tarantino set about booking a seriously impressive roll call of stars. The 2 leads, a former Western TV series star and his longtime stunt double, are played by Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt respectively, while Sharon Tate is portrayed by Margot Robbie. The rest of the cast includes Deep Breath Needed Damian Lewis, Dakota Fanning, Al Pacino, Kurt Russell, Lena Dunham, and Rumer Willis. It'll also feature the late Luke Perry, who filmed his scenes just months before dying suddenly at the age of 52. Fast forward to May 2019 and Once Upon a Time was finally ready to get its debut. Writers from around the world attended the Cannes premiere, which was one of the most hotly anticipated events on the film festival's schedule. After the premiere, the film was given a 6-minute standing ovation, and in short, critics were seriously impressed. The Times and The Guardian were among the publications to give the film 5 stars, with the latter's veteran critics Peter Bradshaw writing quite simply, "I just defy anyone with red blood in their veins not to respond to the crazy bravura of Tarantino's film-making, not to be bounced around the auditorium at the moment-by-moment enjoyment that this movie delivers." Vanity Fair also praised it, describing Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio's efforts as glowing star turns and concluding this curious fairy tale may not be the truth, and it may prattle on too long. But when its stars align, and they let loose with their unmistakable shine, Hollywood movies do seem truly special again. Less than 24 hours after taking a bow in front of the premiere attendees, Tarantino and his lead stars faced the press. Everything was going well until it wasn't. Don't get us wrong, the LA Times reported. The most contentious moment during the question and answer session came when a female journalist from the New York Times asked the filmmaker why he gave a talented actress like Margot Robbie, who plays Sharon Tate in the late 60s Hollywood period piece, such little dialogue. "I just reject your hypothesis," Tarantino said bluntly, a scowl on his face. Margot then defended the actor, saying, "I don't think it was intended to delve deeper. I think the tragedy, ultimately, was the loss of innocence. To show those one, rarely do I get to spend so much time on my own as a character. That was actually, Once Upon a Time inch." Hollywood is Out gallery. Meet the cast of Quentin Tarantino's controversial new movie Stars Insider.
Raindrop, drip, drop top, top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. I get fucking on your bitch, yeah, that.